Pet Sematary. Action. So Pet Sematary tells a story about a family, the Creed family, that moves into a house in Maine from Chicago, and they find out that in their backyard, not too far, there's a cemetery for pets. Because the road in front of their house has a lot of trucks that drive by all the time, very fast, and a lot of pets die. They have a neighbor named Judd who tells them not to bury anybody over there, because if they do, they'll come back. And sometimes dead is better.
Sometimes dead is better.
This is a very popular classic of Stephen King's. You got It, you got Christine, you got this one. This one actually made Stephen King depressed, apparently, when he wrote it. He wrote it and he didn't have it published for like 4 or 5 years after he wrote it. He just kind of had it sit in the way. And it's based on a true story in his life about there was a busy road that he lived nearby. And this house was this house that you see in this movie. It's all actually shot in Maine. And the house was like 20 minutes away from Stephen King's house. And Stephen King has a cameo in this movie. So that's pretty nice. This movie is basically just about life and death. This movie just touches base. It just dives into places where we try to forget about. It really just it's a movie about death, and like it's just a very scary subject. No one wants to be reminded about it. And this movie just forces you to face your fears, like the fear of like losing, your pet, because this movie's just very relatable because we've all been there. We've all wonder, like, our dog's gonna die one day. Am I emotionally prepared to deal with that? And then, losing your loved one or your newborn child. Anybody who has a child, they automatically have that fear in them that, I could mess up and I'd lose my kid because of me, because I'm a shitty parent. And yeah, the father in this movie, pretty shitty parent. What kind of fucking person turns their back on their son when you know there's a busy road right there? So there's con number one. He's a shitty dad, alright? And what happened to Gage is on him. So yeah, let's just go over the cons real quick. The cons of this movie, the child actress, she wasn't that good. The daughter, Denise Crosby was good. They were good. The daughter, I mean, come on, let's just talk about it. They gave her a lot of emotional scenes, and it just felt kind of fake to me. It's interesting that she had a twin, this actress, this little girl. So they had two of the same act. They had twins on set. So in some scenes, you're seeing a different person technically. But every time she was giving like a monologue about God and why does God take things from it, and it was weak. But I don't blame her. She's a child. They have this weird nanny named Missy who just says and does things, just mainly says things, but it would just get her fired. She looked like she was skittish. She looked like she would just steal from them at night. I don't see how they trusted her, especially when she starts feeding big vocabulary words into their daughter. The daughter starts cussing and saying shit about cutting nuts off. It's like, yeah, fire her. Why is she still around? This is a Stephen King movie that doesn't have an opportunity to have bullies in it. This is the first Stephen King movie I've seen that doesn't have a major bully in it. It's like there's always bullies in Stephen King books and movies. Finally, we got one that doesn't have it. So I guess that's a pro. Alright, sure. And the next con is more of just like a logical error in my opinion. Like, you got this ghost who's like a good ghost. He's trying to help the mother and daughter. He's telling them like, yeah, your husband's doing some crazy shit. He's about to bury your son. He's about to bury this person. Why didn't he just haunt him? Lewis. Why wasn't he just haunting Lewis and trying to stop him himself? Like he was doing in the second act of the movie, like why didn't he just keep fucking with him? It's just weird. Like, but that character was also the comic relief for this movie. Every time he's on the camera, it was just weird and hokey. Just seeing him there, just on the airplane and talking to people that he knew couldn't hear him. So this was almost like that werewolf movie where, like, which werewolf movie was it? Where there's like a person who was dead, but he was still like talking to the person. It was almost like the remake, the new Mummy movie with Tom Cruise, where you had the dead guy who's just talking to people. I didn't remember that about this movie when I saw it over 10 years ago, but that was like the comedic aspect of this movie, which I feel like this movie would be better if it was just serious the whole way, because this movie should have been just serious, but he wasn't cracking jokes or anything, but it was still kind of comedic. Just him being there, it was just weird. Like, the more you saw of him on camera, the less scary it was. But him with his head bashed open, his brain was just sitting there. It's like, it's not scary no more. You're ruining it. And then they get this cat, and I don't know why movies do this. They always like do the ADR, except it's not people. It's just cat sounds. They put these cat sounds in it. And there's moments where the cat's making noises, but the mouth's clearly not moving. This cat's not talking at all. It's not meowing. The cat will be like in the bedroom, and then immediately the next scene, it's the dad outside, and the cat just jumps from a tree. It's like, really? I thought it was just in the bedroom. Now it's right here. But those are just little nitpicks. I mean, just little things I saw. I was like, wait, what? Another con would probably just be like, it kind of it's dated because they had a puppet play Gage when they were fighting. So he had to sell that this puppet was like attacking him. And the way they shot it was kind of good. They went back and forth. But at the end of the day, like you can see the shots where it's like clearly a plastic puppet attacking Lewis. So just things like that, you can see it, and it kind of just takes you out of the moment real quick. Like, oh, that was a puppet. And then Lewis, after experiencing what he just experienced with Gage, immediately goes, I'm gonna bury my wife and do the same shit. It's like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing multiple times and getting the same result and not doing anything about it. It's like, really? You're fucking crazy. And his hypothesis was like, oh, I'm gonna bury her quicker this time, so therefore she won't be evil. Really? Who the fuck told you that? But the pros for this movie is basically everything else. The acting on everybody else's part was great. They cast the little kid perfectly. The kid was creepy as hell. Very gruesome third act. When the way that the old guy dies, Judd. Very gruesome. I haven't seen anything like that. It was pretty intense. Especially when they actually have a 2-year-old kid killing somebody. That's pretty gruesome. Like, this movie would probably be very scary to watch if I had children, and I'm glad I don't. I don't plan on ever having kids, especially after watching this, because then they're gonna try to kill me. Just love the concept of this movie. It's like just burying somebody. Like, it's just something like if you go in their shoes, you're like, yeah, I probably would too. If you lose a loved one, you would do anything to get them back. So of course, if you were told, hey, if I bury them in this place, they can come back and hopefully not try to kill me. So it's just like, yeah, of course. It's like you can totally relate, and it's just like this movie totally like plays into your fears of death, and it's just a very spooky, eerie movie. It's not a movie I would want to watch too much, maybe once a year, because it really does make you feel uneasy with all the things it makes you think about. Interesting score, very intense, and definitely builds suspense. This movie is very well shot by a first-time horror director. This woman, this is her first horror movie. I think her name was Mary Lambert. I'll put it right here if I get it wrong. But Mary Lambert. And then I think about it, I think Missy, their nanny, who ends up hanging herself, she should marry that neighbor. Because they both had the same accent. Whenever she was talking, I was like, she kind of sounds like that guy. She sounded just like Judd every time she was talking. I was like, you sound like that fucking crazy farmer. Now, Zelda, that is one creepy ass person. That's like the scariest part of this movie. They had this woman who was basically the wife's biggest fear. Someone that it was her sister growing up who had like spinal meningitis or something. The spine was all twisted, so she could never get out of bed. Her sister basically died, but was a burden on the family because it was just very crazy. But whenever Zelda was on screen, you were just uncomfortable. You almost just want to look away, like, oh god. It was very good special effects and makeup in this movie. Very creepy, well done movie. I think that when it comes to Pet Sematary, you should definitely go out and buy it. Alright, my Mr. Hat Award's definitely going to go out to Judd. The way he went out by a little 2-year-old kid with his throat getting eaten out, that's pretty gnarly. That's some gnarly shit right there. And of course, the Mr. Twig Award's going to go to poor little Gage. Just watching him die, even if you don't have children, it's still a sad thing to see, and it totally breaks your heart. But those are my awards. Have you seen Pet Sematary? Is it your favorite Stephen King movie / book, whatever? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you want to see more Rantastic awesome content, you can do so by clicking my cartoon face in 5 seconds. And until next time, I'll see you this evening.
Yeah.